My grandfather left everything to a stranger. The will had one condition nobody understood. I want to start with the exact sentence my aunt read out loud in that lawyer's office because I have replayed it in my mind so many times I can recite it word for word. To the rest of the family, I leave my love and nothing else. Everything I own goes to Marian Whitfield, provided she completes the task described in the sealed letter attached, within 1 year of my death. Nobody in that room knew who Marian Whitfield was. My grandfather Walter died in March at 81. He had built a modest but real fortune over his life. A hardware store chain he sold in the 90s. Some smart property investment after that. Nothing extravagant, but enough that everything meant something like $1.8 million. Plus a house plus a lake property 4 of my cousins had been quietly assuming would eventually be theirs. There were 7 of us in the lawyer's office. My mom, her 2 siblings, and 4 grandchildren, myself included. We had all expected some fairly standard division. Walter had never given anyone a reason to think otherwise. He was a quiet, steady man, not prone to drama, which made the will's contents lean even harder. The kind of shock that almost worse for being so out of character. The lawyer, a tired-looking man named Mr. Aldis, who had clearly been Walter's lawyer for decades, explained that he didn't know who Marian Whitfield was either. Walter had come to him 8 months before he died, alone, and had this will drawn up with very specific, very unusual instructions. The estate would sit in a trust for exactly 1 year. If Marian Whitfield completed the task in the sealed letter within that year, everything transfers to her. If she didn't or couldn't be found, the estate would revert to the family, split evenly. He handed my aunt the sealed letter addressed to Marian and explained that, per Walter's instructions, we were allowed to know its contents, but only after it had been delivered to her, and she had had 30 days to respond. As expected, my family did not take that well. There was yelling. My uncle accused Mr. Aldis of coercion, of scheme, of elder abuse. Walter had been healthy and sound, until his hurt simply stopped one morning at home. My cousin Beth spent that entire car ride home Googling Marian Whitfield, combined with every town Walter had ever lived in, finding nothing. It took the lawyer's firm 11 days to actually locate her. She was 63, living 2 states away, working as a nurse in a hospital. She had no criminal record, no obvious connection to my grandfather that anyone could find, not a distant cousin, not a business associate, nothing on paper linking her to our family at all. I want to be honest about where my head went during those 11 days because I think it's the same place everyone's went. I assumed an affair. It felt like the only story that made sense. My grandmother had passed 9 years before Walter, and there had been a stretch of maybe 2 or 3 years in there where Walter traveled a lot for business that nobody questioned much at the time. It felt obvious. It felt honestly a little bit like a betrayal we could finally point to. We were young, but I didn't know that yet. Once Marian was located and the letter delivered, she called Mr. Aldis's office, confused, and according to him, initially convinced it was some kind of scheme targeting her specifically because of her job. It took him 3 separate phone calls to convince her the estate and the letter were real. She agreed to open it. The letter, which we only learned the contents of after Marian herself chose to share it with the family 6 weeks later. She didn't have to, but she did, and explained everything. 41 years earlier, when Walter was working nights as a gas station to support my grandmother and my infant mother, a teenage girl had come through, alone, clearly in some kind of trouble, asking to use the payphone. Walter, on a break, ended up talking to her for close to an hour while she waited for a ride that took forever to come. She told him she was running from a bad situation at home, that she didn't know where she was going, only that she needed to leave. Walter didn't have much to give her. He was barely getting by himself. But he gave her $40 from his own pocket, the number of a women's shelter 2 towns over that he had heard about from a co-worker. And in his words from the letter, the only piece of real advice I had at 26, which was that whatever she was running from, she deserved to run towards something too, not just away. He never saw her again. He didn't know her name at that time. He only found out decades later, through an odd coincidence involving a newspaper article about a hospice program of all things, that the woman had survived that period of her life, gotten out safely, become a nurse specifically because of the kindness shown to her by strangers during the dangerous stretch, and had spent the following 4 decades in the same field caring for dying people, many of whom had no family left to sit with them. Walter recognized her somehow. From a small photo in that article, he wrote to her once just to say he remembered her and was glad she had made it. She wrote back. They corresponded occasionally over the years, she told us later, never meeting in person again, just letters a few times a year. 2 strangers who had shared one important hour in a gas station decades before. The task in the letter wasn't complicated, and it wasn't really a test of her. If I'm honest, it was Walter's way of making sure the money went somewhere he believed actually mattered. The condition was simply this. Within a year, Marion needed to use a portion of the inheritance to establish a small fund in no one's name that would provide emergency assistance, a few $100s, no questions asked, to anyone in a genuine crisis who needed to get somewhere safer and had nowhere else to return. The same $40 and phone number he had given her, scaled up, made permanent, made available to strangers. She would never meet either. She completed it in 4 months. The fund still exists. It's small. It's not designed to be a foundation with a name and a building, just quiet, ongoing help. But as of the last update I saw, it's helped over 60 people in 2 years. My family's reaction to all of this was and still is complicated. There was real grief mixed in with the anger for a long time. Grief that Walter had never told any of us this story, that he had carried a memory that clearly mattered enormously to him for 41 years without a single person in his own family knowing it existed. My mom said something to me once that stuck with me. I don't think he didn't trust us. I think some kindnesses feel too small to explain until the person you did it for turns out to have needed it more than you'll ever know. We didn't inherit the money. I won't pretend that didn't sting. And I won't pretend some of my family has fully made peace with it. My uncle still brings it up at holidays in a tone that makes clear he hasn't. But I met Marion once, at a small gathering she arranged about a year after everything settled, and she told me something I think about often. She said Walter's $40 and 1 sentence of advice were the reason she was alive to receive anything at all, and that everything after that, the nursing career, the decades of sitting with dying strangers so they wouldn't feel alone, the fund now helping other people in crisis, all of it traced back to one tired man on a night shift who decided a stranger's hour of trouble was worth his attention. I think about what I would have done in his position. 26 years old, barely scraping by, a wife and a newborn at home, and a scared teenager asking to use a phone. I don't know that I would have given her $40 I could spare. I don't know that I would have remembered her name well enough decades later to recognize a small photo in a newspaper. I just know that somewhere out there, 60-some people got help they needed because a hardware store owner in his 80s decided at the very end of his life that the debt he felt he owed a stranger mattered more than what his own family expected to receive. I don't know if I'll ever fully stop being a little sad about the money, but I have stopped being angry about it. Some inheritances are a house, or a lake property, or a number in a bank account. Ours turned out to be a story we didn't know we were part of until the very end. What would have you done in this situation?